Our very first guest is a superstar chef. He is the founder of Black Star Pastry, one of the most well-known retail cafe chains in Australia, and he's also the founder of the strawberry watermelon cake. I know. So this cake has been recognised by the New York Times as the most Instagrammed cake in the world. And it sells 1 million slices a year. And that's just me. That's just me buying those 1 million slices. All right, please welcome our very first guest, Christopher Tay.
Hi.
Chris, thank you for being here.
Oh, pleasure. This is a really cool night.
Yeah, it's
great
fantastic.
Idea.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you so much for being here. I'm a very big fan of your work and a very big fan of your pastry creations.
Oh.
So here tonight, I'm here just to say a personal thank you. And I would like to say that what you've created is amazing and very delicious.
It's a nice cake. You know, my son had his birthday. He's turned 14 on Saturday. So.
Oh, happy birthday!
Yeah. Even though I'm not involved with that business anymore, there was a special request, so out came the watermelon cake. Yeah. Still know how to make it.
Oh, oh, that's great. Have you got any spare birthday cake left? So, Chris, I've got a lot of questions for you, and you're really interested to learn, firstly, about how you got into becoming a chef in the very first place. What was your inspiration?
Okay, so I think I was a bit distracted at high school.
We all were.
I really wanted to be a pharmacist like my father, but I've been with my wife since year 12.
Aww.
And so, we grew up in the same neighborhood, and so I recognized her on the bus one day and said, "Hey, Chris, do you remember?" And she said, "No, you creepy guy." But eventually, catching the bus every day, we, hit it off.
You made your
and
case.
Just at the wrong time, because it was HSC, so I missed out by like a mark on what I wanted to do. But I think that turned out for the best. Yeah.
By 1 mark?
About a mark, yeah.
Wow.
So what did I do? I also wanted to go into psychology, but during university, I started cooking just to pay my way through, and that just became the thing, the passion. I just became obsessed, and I think I'm one of those people that when I do find something I really enjoy, I just dive straight in. So straight after that last exam, straight pass, straight into a kitchen, and then I was running cafes really, really badly at the age of 21. And thought, oh, this isn't great, so I've got to go back and get some like official training. And then I ended up in like the fancy restaurants, because back at in that day, that's where the really good technical cooking happened, and that's where I wanted to be. Well, now, I mean, there's great cooking everywhere you go. People just have, skill and passion. Yeah, back then it was a little bit different. I mean, it was kind of like octopus salad and rocket salad, and if you wanted to cook interesting stuff, you had to go to those fancy restaurants. But back then it was like so hard to get into any job.
Yeah.
It's the reverse of now. Now there's like restaurants everywhere, not enough staff, and we have this problem now. And back then, like I used to turn up at Tetsuya's every week and say, "Can I have a job? Can I have a job?" It's like, no. Eventually, I was able to work at Claude's restaurant, which is a tiny little restaurant up in Oxford Street. It was there, and it was there for 30 years. So that's where I really learnt how to cook well, properly, beautifully, they would say. I did a full apprenticeship in the time. I spent my time in a lot of places, but that's where I really learnt what they call gastronomy. It sounds a bit funny, but that's like the understanding and the love of cooking, and the love of service as well. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And so tell me more about that time working in fine dining. I mean, you've worked at some of Sydney's top restaurants. What's that like?
There's a lot of pressure. It was back in the bad old days where you do 14, 16-hour days, and that was just it. And if you didn't want to do that, someone else would do it. It really toughened you up straight away. Yeah. And then you get kind of addicted to it. It's a strange kind of... it's like a workaholism in a way. It's like, look, I don't need sleep, But I loved those days. It was so good. Yeah.
I loved when I didn't sleep.
Back then, when you're, in your 20s, gosh, you're just like the Energizer Bunny. You could just go and go and go and go.
Yeah, and that's right. And you have, a team around you, I'm sure, that you pushing each other and adapting to that pressure, or reacting to that pressure as well.
Very, very, very tight team. So, I mean, that's one of the biggest joys of working in restaurants, hospitality, is that the little band that you get, and you're all supporting each other, and you grow up together, and, you pull each other through. Yeah.
So how demanding is it working in fine dining? I know you've touched on it in terms of the hours, but in terms of actually, the mastering the creation of that food.
No mistakes allowed.
I would be out immediately. First day, first minute. Forget the 14 hours.
Yeah, look, I remember... there would be days when I would catch the bus in and I'd be just meditating, just trying to focus my mind and going through what I had to do on that day, just so I'd get through. Because I stepped into that pastry chef position really young. It was a real kind of punch above my belt position, and I was terrified. I remember how terrified I was. I mean, by the end of that job, I stayed there 4.5 years. By the end, I was kind of like, oh, what else is there? But
wow.
Yeah, but I mean, you just push yourself.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
And in fine dining, is there creative control that you have, or how does that work in terms of creating?
Look, it depends which chef you work with. So Tim, after I'd been there a little bit, collaboration, yeah. He was really into that. You bring some different ideas. Always the chef has the final say. And I worked at Key Restaurant with Peter Gilmore, and he's the opposite. So you don't get any input until I did get to contribute a few ideas, and that became the snow egg later on.
Really?
Some of the little bits, like the crusty twill that you'd blowtorch over, but our version looked nothing like it. It looked...
Wow, really?
No, it looked like a sea urchin. It was... It wasn't that great. No, so he perfected it, but he's a master. So yeah, it's. I mean, you're there to learn off people, not really to push yourself. Because once you leave and you open your own place, you're on your own, and everything you've got is what's there.
So that's interesting. So you learn from the other people. I mean, your bosses. And
always learning.
Yeah. And in the kitchen itself, it must be really high pressure, following what they've created and making sure that you execute that vision.
Yes, but I mean, you find that you step up to the challenge. I don't know. I'm not the most organised person, so every day I'd be behind, and what we call in the whatever, just before service, and every day I'd somehow pull myself through, make it.
Yeah.
And
amazing.
it was fine.
Yeah.
And you get used to that kind of level of self-confidence, and so it just allows you to take on whatever challenge, because it'll feel terrible getting through it, but you'll be fine eventually. Yeah. Trust in yourself. But then you have to also really not allow yourself to pretend things are not all right if they're not. So you got to ask for help, or you basically don't let yourself get in trouble in the first place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. And so you moved into the pastry chef world. How was that transition moving from one world to another?
Okay, so I just spent 4.5, almost 5 years, like at 3-hat level, which is the top of your game, feeling like, a bit of a little god. And then you go, and then I got my first job in a patisserie, and my first job was to ice eclairs, and it's just something you just don't come across in a restaurant. Couldn't do it, just feeling like a total goose, So yeah, it was a rude awakening, and then back to the bottom again, but it was fun, And I spent some time in a bakery, sourdough bakery, and what else did I do? A cake factory, just to see what's out there. All really different types of work.
What made you make that transition in the first place?
So that was. I think 4.5 years of just that pressure, and my wife works day. We were married by then. I worked night, and we didn't really see each other for 10 years.
Wow, that's a lot of pressure, that you're facing in the workplace, but then also, with your home and your family.
Yeah, I mean, I was lucky because it was a nice little restaurant where, she could come and sit in the kitchen while I worked, and that was great. I mean, yeah.
That's really special.
Cozy, and she'd come to the staff meals. It was a lovely little restaurant where you'd just a table of, say, 10 people having dinner every night, just before service, and then, that was great. But I think, it was just time to kind of find a bit more work-life balance, so that's what I did.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so, with Black Star Pastry, how did that start?
So I was at the Cordy having a beer, and I just saw that shop. And that shop, I'd seen it before on that side of Australia Street in Newtown. If you're familiar with it, it's got just beautiful sun coming down. It's a cul-de-sac, so there's not a lot of cars. It's just the perfect place for
I think we've got a photo
cafe.
of you outside.
Yeah, go for it. And so we just kind of, sometimes you just get that feeling, and it's just like, yes, this is it. That's me with black hair. So so we somehow found out who owned that shop and just approached him. And I think he liked the story because he said there's, when one of those shops comes up, people are just, straight in there trying to lease it. Mm-hmm. Even so, it was a terribly difficult decision to actually make that plunge.
Yeah.
Let me think. I think I had one kid at that point, and another one on the way, and it was a bit of a this is it. This is now or never moment. So I asked my dad if I could borrow some money, and he lent me a lot of his superannuation. I remember my mum saying, and that's the last I'll ever see of that, because she was quite a blunt person, straight up. But thankfully, it worked. It worked well. I had absolutely no idea how to run a business. Just pure energy and ambition, and no turning back to the motherland. This is it. I have to do it.
Yeah, that's right, because you became a business owner all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And that's how was that?
Oh, I wouldn't recommend doing it my way.
Or would you, because you were very successful in what you did?
Well, yeah. Look, if you've cooked all your life, you think cooking's the be-all and end-all, and if I just cook well, then people will come. Honestly, I don't think I actually did an account for like 18 months. Don't do that, anyone. But we caught up. No, I just worked and worked and worked and worked. I didn't live at home at that point, so I lived upstairs and made and baked in the day, sold it, everything was gone, had to start from nothing, and then slept at night, maybe 4 hours and up again. Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah. That's a good problem, isn't it?
Yeah. What are the hours like for when you said, because it's famous for being a very early sort of morning.
Well, I mean, I love the morning. I mean, I was up this morning at work. It's
What time?
well, we're actually getting better. So only 5 o'clock, but actually 4 o'clock's a great. 4 o'clock's a beautiful start time. 3 o'clock is nice too, but it tends
3
to.
o'clock sounds great.
Oh, I don't know, because anyone you meet at 3 o'clock in the morning, you kind of, you know.
Yeah. There's like a solidarity of
Yeah.
It's 3 a.m. I know.
Yeah, but that's where you really get to get in the kitchen and, you know, the thing that chefs love about cooking is this feeling of flow. And I like to describe it like, do you know when Mr. Miyagi teaches Daniel to block and to punch, it's very awkward and he hates it, but then he gets into this kind of flow and it's just it's all coming out of you. And that's what the morning bake is like. Yeah, just go, and it's just it's a beautiful thing. It's kind of what you want when you design jobs for people in your kitchens. You want to get them into this idea of flow and just go, and the mind turns off, and it's almost like a meditative state. Really lovely.
Yeah. And what inspires you when you are creating?
You know, I to be honest, I'm not one of those people that it all just poof comes out of me. It's almost like an anguishing experience, do you know? Mm-hmm. And it takes several attempts to get anything right. Very, very rarely do you get anything right first time, which I suppose is encouragement for those people who aren't, you know, pulling out magic every time. So, I mean, really, when you talk about food, it's about, like any other kind of art form, you're pulling in meaning in a medium, you know? So if you see a beautiful painting, you get emotions, and food does that too. When it's done well, it should make you think, and it should bring back emotions, and especially aroma. Aroma is really good at conjuring memories and connecting to, just your emotional brain. And that really is the power of food. That's what I really love about cooking. When you do that, because you can almost say, I want to cook something that makes people feel like this. And when you see that result, that's amazing. That's an amazing experience.
And so speaking of food done very, very well, let's talk about the strawberry watermelon cake.
Yeah.
Actually, let's get a picture up so everyone can feel,
strawberry watermelon
if they don't already
cake.
know it, here we go.
Yeah.
So tell us about the strawberry watermelon cake.
Well, it was a request for a wedding cake from a friend, and like tabula rasa, whatever you want to do, Chris. So I mean, the starting point was it was meant to be a romantic cake that kind of reminds you of love and marriage and those kind of things. And I was eating a lot of fruit salad at the time. And really inspired by Middle Eastern flavors, hence the rose water and the pistachios and the rose petals. They're really special ingredients from Persia. I'm really hoping to get there one day and see the harvest one day. The watermelon was, well, visually it kind of needs a red stripe. And I could see this cake in my mind. It's like, oh, what do I do for that red stripe? So I don't know. You know, when sometimes when you break rules, sometimes that's where the magic happens. And I think it's it really gets people intrigued, because it's called strawberry watermelon cake, and they can almost taste it in their mouth. And that's what kind of, I think, what drives people to go and try it. Is it going to match up with my imagined, you know, flavors I've got in my imagination with the real thing? And it just turned out to be a really, really pretty cake. Yeah.
It's gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous. And what I love about it, I mean, the whole thing, but I love the texture.
Yeah.
That for me stands out. when I first had it, like you said, you know that there's watermelon in there, and then you just taste it. You're like, wow.
Yeah.
They weren't joking. That's actually watermelon, and I'm so happy, and it's just an explosion of flavour in my mouth. And can I have another slice?
It looks like it could be heavy, but it's actually very light. And to get everything to work properly actually it took years of refinement. It was quite a slippery, sloppy cake for a while. To get it to stand like that, yeah, we've got special tricks to do that. All very, nothing crazy in there, but just technique and craft, So I love the idea of craft in cooking. It's where you just hone something year after year, and you're just happy to make the same thing every day, year after year, And yeah, I have a lot of guys working with me that have that. They bring that to work every day, Just make the one thing and just try and make it better and better every day. Yeah.
It's incredible. And what do you think about the response that you've gotten? We've talked about how the New York Times called it the most Instagrammed cake in the world. There's over 1 million slices sold every day, every year. So how does that, did you expect that?
Oh, look.
Yeah.
I remember when I've got 4 kids, and when my twins were born, we had, they were hard times. Yeah. So the staff Christmas party, we ended up having it at our house because that's all we could manage. And I remember saying to the chefs, make sure you make enough strawberry cake. Make a quarter of a tray. And that was in 2011. And then I think what happened was like social media and especially Instagram just really took off. And then it just was one of those darlings of social media because it's such a visually intriguing cake. So then we had lines out the door. It was crazy because all I really wanted to do was build a tiny little cafe and be part of the community,
And then all of a sudden, New York Times is like, this is the cake.
Oh, yeah. Oh, look,
I just wanted I just wanted a thing.
I still love those days when it was just about, Newtown, just about the crowd. Just, I knew everybody came in, knew their coffee order, had a chat, and then it just got mental. And we'd have like line. It was like a bus would turn up or something and people would file out. It's like, what's happening here? But you just deal with it. And at times there were like 40-minute wait to get in the shop. Like if you wanted a coffee there, you couldn't get in. It was crazy. It's a great problem to have.
Yeah, that's right.
Great problem to have.
Yeah, and that's interesting because as a business owner, you're then thinking, how do we manage this success? And, how was that in terms of like expansion and...
We became known for really bad service at one point. You can imagine, the guys would be just pummeled day in, day out.
Yeah.
Guys front and guys back. And they were really grumpy. And we had to kind of manage that. And that's why we started to grow and expand. When you're a small family-run business like us, it takes years to actually build enough... savings, I suppose, to go for your second shop. But we just found, if we don't make that move, we're just going to lose all our customers, and they're really important to us because it was just really hard. So then we started to open new shops and kind of spread the love around Sydney. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And by the time, but just before we moved too. We were renting a rental kitchen at $400 a day because the kitchen just couldn't deal with it. I have to tell you a story about that kitchen. And it's the tiniest little kitchen. And when we opened, it was like, we haven't got enough storage. So what I worked out, I measured the windows upstairs on the first floor, and measured these fridges that you could buy, and then got a crane and craned these fridges into the first floor. And I thought, there's no way these fridges are ever coming out of here. No. Yeah, I remember, and there was just no bench space. So I was holding the tray in one hand and then palleting with this.
Just turning around and then moving.
It was time to move, yeah. It was time to move and grow.
And we do have a picture of you, I think, let's have a look at this picture.
Yay.
Tell us about this picture.
That's Rosebery. So back then, Rosebery was a quiet kind of little suburb, but it just had this real kind of cool edge to it. I thought, yeah, we could do this. And again, like you'd think opening, I've got this smashing store in Newtown, of course I'm going to do well, but you don't kind of think like that when it's you. You go, oh gosh, I hope it does well. I hope people like it. I hope it, I hope they come. I hope it all works. And it was difficult. God, you'd think doing your second and your third and your fourth is going to be like easy because you've done it before, but they all just take it out of you. But anyway, having your kids at work is such a lovely, lovely thing. It's really wonderful. The bigger you get, though, the less you can do it, because then you have all sorts of, compliance and regulations and things like that. But yeah, that's right. The joy of a small little business. I know I got a bit big for myself, didn't I, at that point?
That's great. Very, very successful. And we've got another picture as well of something else that you've created.
Yeah, so I put this picture and I wanted you to see it because, a big part of what I like to do is just see the beauty that is just within produce that's provided for you. So, that's very important to our style, is that we don't... What you see is what you get, firstly, and that is a really important way to connect your mind with the food, because you just anticipate. You can taste it. You can taste it just by looking at it, and then the eating of it is almost like a release, Like
it's a whole experience, isn't it? It's a whole experience.
Yeah.
And then, just for everyone's reference, we do also have that photo of.
Yeah. Black Star. So I started making these eclairs. My brother opened a rehearsal studio. He's a musician in Marrickville called Vintage Sounds. Before I had Black Star. And I did these Vintage Sounds eclairs for him. And that's where these Black Star eclairs came from. They became Black Star. But every one should be slightly... it should always be handwritten. It's about the signature. Everyone should have their own little personality. And what I find too, if you're making a whole range of cakes, as in all the same, when you're doing your work, if they're all exactly the same, it just feels a little bit, I don't know, has this little lacking authenticity. So we try and make all our little cakes look slightly different.
That character.
Yeah.
That's great. That's really great. And I do want to touch on a little bit about your heritage as well, Chris. Can you tell us a bit about your heritage?
All right. So my parents came from Indonesia in the 60s, and I think they were very happy to get out of Indonesia. So they were taken in by an Australian family, and they helped them kind of get a foothold, put them up. And we were brought up in Haberfield, so I've been in Haberfield since I was 1 year old. And my parents, I don't know if they did it intentionally, but they didn't really strongly keep that Indonesian part of us alive, except in the food, which I can't cook much of, unfortunately. So sometimes I just see myself as Australian, as Australian as it gets. The suburb was quite Italian too, so I also wanted to be Italian. Yeah. But I just see myself as purely Australian. We had some hard times. It was a different world. And so much can change in one generation. my children would not. They don't see race. They don't look at people for what they look at. They just look at people in white, and that's a lovely thing to see.
It really is, and it's really great to see that progress, isn't it?
Yeah.
And finally, we're about to wrap up. I do want to ask you about what you're working on now, because I know that you've got a brand new venture called This Is Us.
Yes.
And I think we have this picture.
They're English muffins, sourdough English muffins.
Delicious.
So like everyone in lockdown, I was baking and doing a lot of baking at home.
Let's just pause right there. Like everyone, I was baking. Well, technically,
You were all baking,
yes,
right?
but to this quality, no.
So again,
Well, I definitely wasn't.
we're talking about quirky stuff like sourdough English muffins because they're fried on both sides. Hey, that's
Are they?
interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
I managed to get them into Harris Farm, muffins, English muffins and English crumpets. And I just thought it was a good place to start cooking, to go into supermarkets. I mean, I've always been a bit worried about being a small producer and just seeing the supermarkets and our dependence on them grow and grow and grow. And I thought my response would be to put really nice food into small supermarkets like Harris Farm, and we're in some like EQs and IGAs. Because I mean, it's an important part of Australian life now, where we get a lot of our food, and I think people are now expecting to see better food in supermarkets. So that's what we're doing, and we'll have retail stores too. We're planning on for the end of this year and moving forward, and there'll be tiny little stores and kind of just baking fresh on site every day. So that'll be exciting.
Oh, I can't wait. I'm first in line. Please save me a spot.
Yeah, that's cool. This Is Us. And one day I want my little self-indulgent art project cake shop. That'll happen, and that'll be lovely, but that's somewhere in the future. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, I know that we'll all be watching. So, Chris, thank you so much for being here today. It's just phenomenal to hear about your experience and the way that you talk about food, and to hear more about the stories behind the amazing creations. I know that I'm definitely inspired to continue to get more cakes and now sourdough goods. So, Chris, thank you for being here. Everyone, please put your hands together.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.